Hey everybody, it's Showan bringing you another episode of E equals MC squared, where entertainment equals meeples and cardboard. The box is square. Dragon Run is a 2 to 5 player game from Blue Orange. The goal of the game is to avoid the dragon's fire and stay alive long enough for him to go back to sleep. In order to win, you'll have to be among those lucky enough to have escaped and be the one holding the most amount of treasure. Sounds easy, right? Well, join me for the next few minutes. I'll show you how it's played. Now here's the game setup for 4 players. You've got your central board, which is essentially the game timer. When the dragon meeple gets down all the way to the moon, that means he'll have gone back to sleep and the game will end. You've got your treasure deck, the discards will go down here. You've got your dungeon deck, the discards will go over here. And you've got your 4 players each with their starting deck of treasure cards. Now on a player's turn, you have to do at least one of the 3 main actions, which are charging, hiding in the shadows, or crying like a little baby. A game is typically going to start with the first player charging into the next room of the dungeon. To do this, you take the top card of the dungeon deck and you'll carry out the instructions. Now in this case, I have to take another turn. Sometimes you're given the choice, sometimes it's mandatory, and sometimes you'll have to stop. In this case, this green symbol with the footprints, I have to go again. So what the heck, let's charge again. Alright, draw a treasure card, and I may take another turn. There's my card. Let's keep going, why not? Okay, same thing. Now, in this deck of 10 cards, there are duplicates in the manual that gives you the breakdown, so you have an idea of what's coming next. Okay, let's take my treasure card, we'll go again. Okay, something different now. When the red symbol with the hand on it comes up, that player has to stop, and it's the next player's turn. In this case, the next player cannot cry like a baby. The second type of mandatory action is hiding in the shadows. To do that, you have to first discard a single treasure card that's worth at least 1 point. That goes there, and then you have to do a sneak test. Now, the purpose for doing this is because if you're successful, then you'll move the dragon down 1 temper point, and you get the choice of either going again or passing to the next player. However, if you fail it, then you have to charge into the next room, and that could mean that you draw that dragon card and you get burned. The third action you can do is my favorite, crying like a little baby. Now the idea behind crying is that you're just so scared because you know that the dragon card is coming up here, it's so close, you just lose all dignity and you go and hide behind the other adventurers and you just don't want to take your turn. So to do that, it's going to cost you though. You have to discard a card that's worth at least 2 gold, and then basically you just pass to the next player. Okay, so on to the next player's turn. They decide to charge again. Alright, this one says that they have to draw or discard until they have exactly 4 treasure cards. That's kind of a crappy card, that's an easy way to lose your money. So in this case, she already has 4, that's fine. Next player's turn, and what's coming up is the dragon card. That's what you do not want to see. Now when this happens, the player who drew it gets burned. They turn their character over to the darkened side. That indicates that they have been burned and the next dragon breath will kill them. Anytime the dragon breathes fire on somebody, he automatically goes down 1 temper point, getting closer to the end of the game. You take all of the dungeon cards, shuffle them back together, and you reform the dungeon deck. I forgot to mention that anytime you do a sneak test with the hiding action, you also shuffle the deck and then start over again. And then we go back to the next player's turn. His turn's over. Next player's turn, they draw another card, and we just continue this process until the dragon gets down to the moon, which means he's gone back to sleep. In that case, anybody who's still alive has got out of the dungeon. Then you check your cards, count up the amounts of treasure on them. The player with the most cards wins. Just a little bit about an experience that I had during a 5-player game one time. It seemed like everybody was just hanging on to their treasure cards, and we were just basically biding our time until the dragon had continuously burned enough people that he got back to sleep. And that's actually how the game ended. Nobody died because we just kept healing, but the game kind of dragged on. We actually almost ran out of all the treasure cards in the deck. In retrospect, I think what we should have been doing was using the hide action more, because hiding will allow you to end the game quicker and put him back to sleep faster. The advantage to doing that is, if you're going through your treasure and you seem to have a lot of high value cards, maybe you want to force the end game quicker by getting him back to sleep. Likewise, on the other hand, if you see a player that's doing that, they're trying to force the end game, they're trying to get the dragon back to sleep quicker, you must be thinking, maybe he's got a lot of high treasure cards, we should probably use our powers or whatever means necessary to take those away from him. And, you know, I don't know what the strategy is, that was just my thoughts of the game. That seems to be one way to win. The funniest part in the game, no doubt, is when somebody draws that Dragonfire card and they get burned. It's hilarious. Everybody gets a kick out of that. In the games I played with larger numbers, it was very rare that a player actually got eliminated. There's healing potions in the deck and it's pretty easy to obtain them, so usually if somebody does get burned, it's not too difficult to heal yourself and get back in the game. Even if the cleric is in play, then, you know, you just give her a treasure card and say, hey, can you heal me? And then, you know, no problem, you're back in it. So it's very little downtime in that sense. I really like the special powers in the game. They seem to be a really good mix, and each character feels like it plays differently. My favorite is the Psychic. I mean, you choose him as his ability, you can go around the table starting with one player and you get to pick one of his cards. And if it's not a potion or talisman, then you get to keep it for yourself and go on to the next player and do the same thing. You stop if you happen to pick a card from somebody and it is a potion or talisman. In that case, you got to give it back to them, and then they get to keep one of your treasure cards. So I mean, there is a risk to it, and I didn't feel like any of the player powers had any major advantage over another, so I thought that part was cool. This is not a very deep and strategic game. It plays quick, it's fast, and it plays up to 5 players, which means it's good to have for something to finish off a gaming session or maybe start one while you're waiting for other people. Usually 1 to 2 games with experienced gamers was more than enough to play. Now that being said, little kids, they get a kick out of this game. I've taught my daughter how to play, and she's only 3.5, but she can understand the basic concepts. She knows when to charge, when to hide, when to cry. I mean, I'll have to read the cards for her, obviously, and maybe advise her, be like, well, there's so many cards in the deck. Do you want to charge or do you want to hide? She gets it, which I think is really cool. I played it with her and her little cousin, and they had a blast playing it. So the difficulty does scale down. You could very easily play this with kids, and I think that's great. They feel good because they're playing a game with either mommy or daddy, and they feel like adults, and you're just having a good time watching them play. I think it's great. Dragon Run is a light, press your luck, filler type game. I probably wouldn't play it more than 2 to 3 times back to back, and I think it's a little bit light to satisfy an experienced gamer, but I'd certainly recommend it for a casual or a younger group. I think I'm gonna hang on to this one because my daughter's always asking me to play it, and she just absolutely loves it. That's Dragon Run. Check it out.